The bouquet was heavier than it looked. Beth had been carrying it for 6 minutes. White roses and trailing greenery, Patricia's last-minute adjustment. Walking the corridor that connected the bridal suite to the main hall of the Hargrove estate. The wedding was 40 minutes away. Everything was on schedule. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. Then she heard his voice. It was coming from behind a door left open 2 inches. Marcus's voice, low, pressed down, the way he spoke when he was containing something larger than the room allowed. I can't stop thinking about what you said, but today isn't the day for this. Beth stopped walking. She knew that voice. She had been listening to it for 8 months across conference tables and phone calls and late evenings when the office had emptied, and it was just the two of them finishing what the day had left undone. She knew every register of it, the clipped efficiency, the quiet authority that made contractors triple-check their numbers before speaking. She had never heard it like that. She stood there for exactly 3 seconds, then she kept walking. She did not look back. She delivered the bouquet, smiled at the florist, answered 2 texts about the seating arrangement, and did not let herself think about what she had just heard. She was very good at not thinking about things. She had been practicing for months. If you are new here, let me introduce myself. I am your narrator, Daisy. Before we go any further, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Now, let's go back to the beginning, because what Beth heard in that hallway was not the whole story, and what she did with it was the most honest thing she had ever done in her life. 8 months earlier, Beth had walked into Holt Construction's 32nd floor wearing a blazer she had pressed twice and carrying a portfolio no one had asked for. Marcus Holt had not looked up from his desk when she entered. His assistant, the previous one, had quit on a Tuesday with 4 hours' notice and a very calm email. Beth had been the agency's emergency placement. She was supposed to last 2 weeks. Her first interaction with Marcus was not a welcome, it was a correction. She had routed a vendor call to the wrong project manager, and he had caught it in the same hour. He walked to her desk, set the call log in front of her, and said, "This goes to Renner's team, not Calloway's. If you don't know the difference yet, learn it before tomorrow, because I don't run corrections twice." She had looked at the log, looked at him, and said, "Understood. I'll have a revised contact sheet to you by end of day with the correct routing for all active projects." He had looked at her for a moment. Then he walked back to his office. The narration knows what Beth didn't. That was the moment he decided she was staying past 2 weeks. She stayed past 2 weeks. She stayed past 2 months. And somewhere in the ordinary machinery of those months, something built between them that neither of them had a name for, because neither of them had gone looking for it. He was not warm with her. He was precise. He remembered things. That was the tell. 3 weeks after she mentioned offhand that her father had lost his business to a bad contract clause, Marcus restructured the language on a supplier agreement in a meeting. He didn't explain why. She didn't connect it, but the narration caught it. He was thinking about what she said. He did that often. He was just very careful to never let it show. The warmth moment, the real one, came on a Thursday night in late November. The office was empty. The cleaning crew had already come and gone, and Beth was at her desk reorganizing vendor files because she had found a misfiling that would have caused a problem by Friday. She was humming, quietly, badly, something without a title. Marcus came out of his office to get water from the hall kitchen. He walked past her desk. He slowed down. He didn't stop. He kept walking. But for exactly 2 seconds, he had stopped being Marcus Holt, who ran a $400 million construction company. He was just a man who slowed down because someone was humming in his office at 9 p.m., and it was the least threatening sound he had heard in years. He was annoyed at himself for the rest of the evening. The narration doesn't apologize for noticing that. Patricia was announced in January. Marcus told Beth on a Monday. He said it the way he would have said anything, standing at the edge of her desk, reviewing a calendar. Block the 14th, engagement dinner, Patricia Vane. Will need the private room at Linden's. Beth had typed it in. Should I send the reservation under your name or the company account? Mine. Done? That was the whole conversation. And it was fine. It was completely fine. Joel started bringing her coffee that same week. Joel worked in contracts, laughed easily, and had been finding small reasons to stop by her desk since October. He brought her a coffee, made her laugh about something that happened in the copy room, and then did it again 2 days later. Marcus was in a meeting when it happened the second time. He wasn't in a meeting the third time. Beth was laughing, really laughing, head tilted back, the kind that couldn't be helped. And Marcus came out of his office, looked at the two of them for exactly a moment, and said, "Joel, I need the Whitmore contract revision on the Northwest Corridor pulled and sent to legal before 3. Today." Joel blinked. "I wasn't assigned to the Whitmore. You are now. 3 o'clock. Joel left. The coffee got cold. The narration clocked the whole thing in real time. Marcus was already back in his office, door not quite shut, and his jaw had been tight since the moment he'd heard her laugh. He did not acknowledge this to himself. He was very disciplined about not acknowledging things. Patricia assigned Beth to manage the wedding logistics. Marcus signed the approval without looking up from the contract in front of him. Beth had been standing at his desk for the handoff. She waited. "Was there something else?" he said. "No, I've got it." She left. He set the pen down. He stared at the contract for a long moment without reading a single word of it. The narration will not pretend that meant nothing. The week before the wedding, they had a late call about venue logistics that was supposed to take 20 minutes and ran for almost an hour. It was Beth's fault. She had questions, real ones, and he kept answering them instead of ending the call. Somewhere around the 40-minute mark, she said, "Can I ask you something that's not about the seating chart?" "You can try." "Do you actually want this wedding to happen the way it's planned? Because I've managed 6 events for you, and you have never once asked this many questions about the details unless something was bothering you." There was a pause, a specific kind. "Plan the wedding, Beth." "I will. I'm asking. I know what you're asking." His voice wasn't sharp. It was something else. "Plan the wedding." She let it go. The narration didn't. 3 days later, before a vendor walkthrough, he reached over and straightened her collar. Just adjusted it. 1 motion, 2 seconds. He said nothing. She said nothing. But her breath had changed before he pulled his hand back, and he had felt it. He didn't look at her after that. He led the walkthrough. That evening he told her, not gently, not carefully, just directly, the way he said everything. "You know more about how this company runs than anyone I've hired at twice your salary. That's either a serious problem with my judgment, or it's you." Beth stared at him. I think you meant that as a compliment." "I did." "Then thank you, I think." And he almost smiled. Almost. The narration caught that too. The morning of the wedding, Beth arrived at the Hargrove estate at 7 a.m. She had a clipboard, a timeline, and the specific efficiency of a woman who had decided to feel nothing until the whole thing was over. Then she heard the phone call. And by the time she was standing in the back of the hall 2 hours later, with her coat already on and her bag over one shoulder, she had made a decision. She was going to hand in her notice Monday. She was going to be professional about it. She was going to be completely fine. The ceremony was 60 seconds from starting. She heard his footsteps before she saw him. Marcus was walking back down the corridor, away from the doors, away from Patricia standing at the altar, away from 200 guests and a carefully constructed life that made sense on paper. He found her. He stopped a few feet away and looked at her like he was figuring out the right first sentence for something he had never said before. "I need you to tell me I'm making a mistake." Beth looked at him, her grip tightened on the bag strap. "I can't tell you that." "Why not?" She held his eyes. "Because I'm not objective." The pause that followed was not empty. It was full of everything neither of them had said in 8 months, every slowed-down hallway moment, every redirected meeting, every phone call that ran an hour when it should have run 20 minutes. Marcus looked at her for a long time. Then, "I need to tell you what was on that call." "You don't have to." "Sandra called me. She had documentation from a deal I made 3 years ago to cover my brother's company when it was going under. She threatened to surface it today." His voice was even. "That's what you heard." Beth stared at him. The misread, the weight she had been carrying since that hallway, dissolved in real time. She felt it leave. She also felt everything it had been covering come flooding back. "You thought I was—" He stopped. "And you still came in this morning and organized the centerpieces." "It wasn't my business." Beth, just her name, the way he said it, closed every careful distance she had been maintaining for months. He didn't marry Patricia. The narration skips the logistics of that. They don't belong to this story. 6 weeks later, they were at a diner on the corner of Clement and Fifth, the kind of place with laminated menus and coffee that came in ceramic mugs. Not somewhere Marcus Holt would have chosen on his own, but he was there in a booth across from Beth, who had ordered for both of them because she already knew what he'd pick. She was reading the receipt with the focused suspicion of someone who had been overcharged before. He was watching her do it. His face was completely unguarded. No architecture, no controlled distance, just a man watching a woman he had been noticing for 8 months and was finally done pretending he hadn't. "You ordered me decaf," he said. "You've had 3 full coffees already today. I was in the car. I didn't ask you to monitor my caffeine intake. And yet," she set the receipt down and looked at him. He looked back, and then quietly, like it cost him something to say it plainly, "I don't want to go back to you being just the person who manages my calendar." Beth held his eyes. "Then don't." The diner was ordinary, the morning light was ordinary, the coffee was fine, and they were, finally, just 2 people on the same side of something, with nothing left to pretend about, and nowhere else either of them would rather be.